All right, good evening, everybody. Calling to order the February 12th meeting for Westerly School Committee. Members present, Lori Whitehall, Peter Nero, myself, Tim Killam, Mike Over, and Angela Goethals. Mr. Jackson will not be joining us this evening. Mr. Nero, could you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Our mission here to create an inspiring, challenging, and supportive environment where students are encouraged and assisted in reaching their highest potential. And our item tonight is our 2026-27 budget work session.
So this evening we tend to think of as the everything else night. Various departments, you've heard from the high school and middle school and the elementaries and about a lot of the other larger departments. But tonight is technology, which is a big part of what we do, a larger one. The superintendent's budget, which is virtually unchanged, a couple of others. And then we have some strategy to think about and share. And then the hope is to get approval of a budget that can move forward to the town. So the Senate can do that. From there, we know we will go back and forth with the town council, where it says we're not finished. And, you know, if they funded everything we requested, we'd be surprised. But so this is the end of the beginning, I should say, we hope. So we'll go from there. So let Cindy start. What do you want to take with you first?
So, first, while Mike is here, we'll start with technology. I'll let him go through the reports. I will say I usually address FTE. There are no changes in FTE in the technology department.
Hey everyone.
Hi.
And Mike.
I have a few comments and then we can get into the nitty-gritty of the technology budget. So what I like to tell people is like the breadth and scope of the technology department. We affect the entire population of students, families, staff, and everyone who works here, right? In addition, our budget reflects what you'll see is the HRs, facilities, people personnel, and finance, which is inclusive, right? What we procure through technology is literally embedded in everything we do as a school, as a purpose, right? It ensures the operations are smooth, successful, safe, and secure. With that said, our overall budget is 1/40th of the entirety of our operation budget for 2.5%. So we have a tall task, right? So as you'll see, there's changes in my budget because we have to attempt to predict what pricing is going to be in 6 to 8 months. In addition, we have to predict pricing volatility. You guys probably heard about AI, and that's affecting hardware, right? So with that, there's two big changes in my budget. You're going to see in hardware and phones. So with that said, there is a 3-page piece of paper. It is the technology site budget. I'm going to ask you to go to the 3rd page. All right, so on this page, we're going to put aside that 12% for right now because I need to tell you a story of how this came to be. Right, we're going to focus explicitly on this 3%. This 3% is actually changes in other departments for software. You're going to see a change in the finance for MUNIS, electronic revenue processing system. When this budget was put together, we were anticipating a 5% increase. I believe now it is a 3% increase. We'll actually drop it by $1,500. The next big thing you're going to see for 38% increase is the HR budgets. We have a district-based compliance module that we're using to ensure that we follow regulatory requirements for things like bloodborne pathogen and Title IX sexual awareness. You're going to see that being put into this budget. Now, there has been some comments, internal conversations about removing that from this OpEx, this operation, and putting it back into the original funding source. If those two things change, the overall software budget would be 0.07% total change. Now, right above this 3%, you're going to see a game of whack-a-mole with all these percentages, right, going up and down. So there's two reasons for that. either a change in student enrollment or a change in how the vendor prices their products. If they don't charge by student enrollment, they can charge by the number of locations you have, the number of locations that use the product, a flat fee for the district, the possible total FTEs, or on a fixed asset. So in this game of whack-a-mole, let's go to the transportation budget. So in this case, the vendor changed how they charge us. It was initially based on enrollment. With the new products that the bus drive is going towards, it's by fixed assets, aka buses, right? So while the percentages look like they're going nuts here, really at the wash, it's a $600 increase. So staying in the same little section here with all these percentages, we have the software, just the tried and true software. It's the same concept. Some vendors charge by enrollment, enrollment's going down, prices change. But the price for the actual product stays the same. So we have both the change in enrollment for the same price, or the vendor changes how they charge us. So the same concept with transportation, right? You're gonna see these washes back and forth with big decreases in the high school and middle school, because they have 600 kids versus 200 kids. And then you have a change in pricing on them. So with that, technically, if you just look at software, pure software from tech, it's actually down $6,000. So it looks like there's a lot of stuff going on here, right? But it's because both declining enrollment and the fact that vendors change how they do pricing for their own benefits. Any immediate questions on that section? Now, I'd like to go to the second page of this document. And we're going to start on this hardware. Again, you're going to see the percentages change. We buy hardware, we attempt to buy hardware every 3 to 5 years. If you look at this budget, you can actually see those swings every 3 to 5 years, especially in the high school and middle school. They are significant entities, and one has 2 sites. So, with that said, historically, what we've tried to do is either put in an OpEx, so we know the true cost of what technology is doing, or we ask the school committee, with the blessing of administration, everyone here, to use surplus at the end of the year. This is hardware that we need, but what we can do with your blessing is take that from the operation and hope that we have surplus. And that would actually reduce the overall 12% already down to 8%. Moving into computer supplies, again, percentages, it's $450. We're buying a few more cases because the kids love them. We moved over to this new little bubble case that's got a strap, you can hold the charger, they're flying off the shelves. Some kids want to, we don't give them to them, but they like them. And we also have a few staff members that actually like it as well. So that's why you see that crease there. Going to the internet, again, it's the same story, right? We have a declining in enrollment, so you're gonna see swings back and forth. The only difference within the internet is on the previous year, we had a product that does cloud backup. They make sure that this whole thing gets taken down, our data is available, we literally pick up and lift it, and we're done. In previous years, I spread that across the sites, because that's primarily at the high school. What I've done now is just move them to the high school and to the middle school, which is why you see the elementaries decrease, but the middle school and high school increase. The last page, but the first page of this document, you're going to see this wireless coverage. It's a very simple way to say cell phones. Cell phone needs change year over year. Some people need more based on a pressing matter, like maybe they need a hotspot in the previous years, or a social worker wants a dedicated phone to do something. But as we change administration, as roles morph and change and go with our needs, you're going to see up and down. So primarily it's down, but you'll see that the one that increased, it's the facilities. And that's also to commensurate with any new vehicles where they actually put GPS trackers or other needs where they want to give a custodian or another person a phone if there's something else that they can give them on, right? All right. So I said there's 2 big drivers. I said hardware, there was phone system. As you may remember, 3 days before school started, the phone system dropped.
So I remember.
So I'm gonna pause here. Some items that we buy, we have this form called a sole source. And it's how we justify buying something without going to bid. There's 4 options. I'm gonna focus on one, the emergency checkbox. The 9 years I've been here, I was always curious. Why would you ever need that? Well, I found out, and I never want to do that again. With that said, we needed a phone system to open school. It was also a holiday weekend. We needed to open, kids needed to come, we needed to say, hurrah, we're back, let's do this. So what happened is that because we don't have all the interconnections we needed with the old one, we moved to a cloud-based form. Now, anything in the cloud is more expensive, which you're gonna see in the price. But with these phones now, we can move them anywhere. You can literally pick up a phone and plug it in China, it'll still work. So God forbid we have to go back home again, we can take all the phones, they all work from home. But also, the more material costs on our old phone system, what you're not gonna see in my budget, or more in the facilities, is every time we moved a phone, every time a teacher, administrator changed the classroom or reconfigured it, there was $500 to $600 to move phone line because of what it was. With this new phone system, we literally just plug it down. You wanna move, no problem, there you go,
There you go.
right, across the entire distance.
That's really good.
So we don't intend to replace the phone system anytime soon, right? We hope that now it's cloud-based, there's no physical cost. So we pay the capital cost for the physical phone on the wall, but everything else is on the cloud. So while it did increase, it's because it's a new cloud system that we needed in the moment the school opened. If we had the opportunity to go out bid, do other RFIs, RFPs, it could have been different. Had that had an opportunity, we would have been probably a different phone system. But we needed to start school. So that is the price that we're going to pay. Lastly, on this page is the other tech services, or I like to call this Power School. So again, declining enrollment, right? We also continue to talk with Power School and beat them up to get you pricing. So I talked a lot. Is there anything immediate on this 3-pager?
Can you go back to what you were talking about, on the operational budget for the hardware,
Yeah.
the timing of that?
3 to 5 years.
So, no, I mean, the timing of, like, could we, and this might be a question for Cindy as well, but could we say that we wanna take, just for example, the hardware increase of about 84,000? Could we say, let's eliminate that from our budget and we'll commit to take it from fund balance at this point? Because that's kind of a one-time expense, right? Wouldn't that sort of be what our fund balance could be used for?
Could be, and that's when I said we have some strategies, that's one of the things
They may have, Lori, 3 or 4 things that they're looking at, they juggle around to take, to take out of the surplus at this point, not knowing what the town is going to give us, so.
Right.
And technology is always a key one to go out of surplus away to the end.
There's always a need for hardware. Sometimes through construction, the items that I put in this budget are necessities. You need to replace a projector that is dead. You need to have a projector available to replace when it's dead. In all of our buildings, we have these big boxes that condition the power. You guys know Dunn's Corners, goes up and down like a flip of a light. This thing, which I'm buying batteries for, ensures that it doesn't turn off or doesn't damage our equipment. On the 2 big ones for hardware for middle school and high school is physical service. Last time we bought it was 5 years ago, right? So eventually, they're no longer gonna make hardware for it, so we need to replace it. So we're at that 5-year period right now, right? We always try to put this in OpEx, so you can see it up front and center. Because as you may notice with years, at the end of the year, the April through May, maybe late June, there are these big ticket items that come up. Half the time it's my name, right? It's because we took them out of OpEx, or we identified a need, right? When we talk about pricing volatility, in the future, there could be a need to purchase Chromebooks sooner. That's not looking like the case yet, right? But that's $120,000 just for Chromebooks. So, sometimes it's hard to predict. some things are accountable, but we can't immediately say, let's do surplus now, because in a month and a half later, someone could put something down the toilet and we gotta do public, right? So, I will continue to advocate the need for this, and I'll let those who know better than I how to do it. All right, no problem. Any other questions on this one?
I'll explain.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So there's one other sheet, but we don't have to talk about it, it's up to you. There's no material increase, it's actually negative 0.1%, but,
So you only want to talk about the heavy hitting, right?
well, I mean, I can talk about it, but I think I was held to 5 minutes, and hopefully it was under that.
Tim's our timekeeper, so. Yeah, I think we're good. Thank you.
Where do you wanna go next?
We'll just go in order.
By the way, it's nice to see Justine Govin's name on this. She's a former Wheeler student. She also works at Java too.
Yes, she still does.
Yeah. Yep.
And I said, it's nice to see someone else's name on these reports.
Don't take it personally.
Okay, so our next budget is athletics. And I'm going to go to the historical budget so we can look at any of the increases and then if anyone has any questions. So in the athletics budget, you'll see there's increases for officials and referees.
Who sets those rates, Cindy? Is that the league?
Yes, yes, we received an invoice from the league, so we're really set to that.
Look into it.
Yeah, I can't find it. Up here.
Where
I was just.
Oh, yeah, it's a little bit.
Found it.
Where is it? Another one? Yeah, training services?
No, athletics.
I'll find it. Go ahead.
Yep.
Maybe it'll slow you down.
It's hard, it's up.
Yep, that's where athletics starts, and then she's got the.
The next is the pool rental, you'll see it's a 7% increase. Note the 26 actuals are 10,980 this year, we had budgeted 10,500, so we're over budget this year. So the 11,250 represents the estimate for fiscal year 27. It doesn't have any other changes until we get to athletic awards, where he's requesting an increase from 2,000 to 3,000. The athletic director's explanation for this line is this is what happens when we win.
Nice.
So that was a good increase. So overall, he has a slight increase of 2.2% in this budget.
Do you know why there, 26 actuals? Like why was there such a jump in 26 from the revised budget? We actually spent almost 44, but we've got, explain those two numbers. See the 20,663 for 26 actual, but then the 26 revised budget was almost 44,000.
Right, so the 26 actual, that was year to date when the report was run,
Yeah.
so that's only a partial expense for the year.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
And what the league will do when they send us the invoice for the year is they'll get the detail, they'll true up at the end. So we do kind of see some fluctuations year over year with that, but it's always reconciled and the full details sent for the athletic director to review. Next is the safety budget. And with the safety budget, I asked for input from Director of Technology and Director of Facilities on this budget, and we have left it level funded. So this includes all of the alarm and fire safety, some lines for emergency needs as anything safety comes up, police details for the high school and the middle school, and in that police detail line of 111,000, It includes $90,000 that goes to the town for our 2 SROs.
And the school committee details are included there too, right? 57.6?
Yes, so you'll note because of the uniform chart of accounts, some things are shown by location, others, like the safety budget, I show by the safety function. So you'll see duplicates in some of the site budgets. Do you have any questions on safety? HR, first on the FTE. Years ago, we did have a director of that department, then we changed to a coordinator, so we have now changed back to having a director and not a coordinator. And also the generalist position has been reduced to a 0.75 instead of a 1.0. Their FTE. In their historical site budget, they are reducing their wireless. They are requesting an increase in supplies and materials. Their employee incentive line is in here, so we're also looking at it. So that is a place to potentially reduce. On page 2, you'll see the tech software. There's an increase of 38%. So along with the recruiting software, the professional learning software, the FMLA software that they have in HR, this also includes what Mike spoke to, that vector for staff training that can also be used for students for $15,000 that could potentially be funded again by a grant. So those were the main changes in human resources. Any questions on HR?
Is it a change of, who is in the position, or is with the coordinator turning into director?
Both, a change of the person and the position. Finance, I have no changes in FTE. Just to note, you'll see on the FTE schedules for location, I have finance, then I put finance/town, because the town does process payroll and accounts payable, and we do pay for a portion of those salaries, as well as for a portion of the purchasing agent that we share with the town. So in the finance budget, you'll see up top the training, that's just a shift in account codes. Moving the 2,500 down the line. You'll see historically there has not been much spent there. These are typically local meetings that myself and other staff have attended. We haven't really done any conferences, but we still want to maintain that line so it's available to us. Auditing shows a decrease. That's based on our current contract with CBIZ, formerly known as Markham. And level funding up until tech software, you'll see the increase of 5%, which is going to decrease to an increase of 3%. The final numbers there. And other than that, no other changes. Any questions on finance? All right, next, superintendent. FTE, no change. And I know I did have a question, I replied all to the email that the 3 executive assistants are charged to the UCOA location. They're not all the executive assistants to the superintendent. We have registration and also Steve's executive assistant in those figures. And the historical budget, you'll see a decrease in postage. For the 26 budget, I did have an increase in postage based on the rates that were coming in for the increase in the postage meter lease and based on new requirements. However, that has been finalized. That's lower than anticipated. Also, payroll, we no longer mail checks. Payroll no longer mails checks or mails pay stubs. So we're no longer paying for postage for when the town had to do all of those mailings. So that's another part of that decrease. And everything else in here is level funded. So an overall decrease of 8.7%. Next is the location of central office. So unemployment and workers' comp are not allocated like the other fringe benefits. They're shown in this one code. So I've level funded those. You can see over the years, there's some significant fluctuations in a lot of them. So we prefer to stay level funded. Employee assistance program, you'll see I reduced that budget to 0. We did change our employee assistance provider. We were offered an opportunity through West Bay, our health insurance collaborative, to include it through West Bay and get the group savings with that entire group. So we included it there, so we're able to remove that.
What is that exactly? Employee assistance program?
It's basically comes out of HR, and it's for any employees dealing with issues that impact their work status. Could be mental health issues, could be any kind of support that they need. So it's a resource that comes out of HR.
They'll also provide trainings and other assistance if needed. And what they also do too is they provide a certain number, I believe it's up to 3 therapy sessions for free for staff. And then whoever they direct them to for those sessions, they make sure it's someone that our insurance will then cover if they continue those sessions. So they're not going to the EAP and saying, why would I go to EAP if I'm gonna need more than 3 sessions and I have to change a provider? So they make sure there's a continuum there. Central office advertising costs. You'll see this has decreased over the years, fluctuated. We used to do a lot more advertising in the newspapers, we no longer do. But this does include now, it'll be removed from the high school site budget, some of the advertising for our CTE programs. Central office furniture, no change. We leave $7,000 in here every year for needs. We start with administration, and then if there's anyone else in the district who has a need. 1 year we used some of these funds for special education office. We've used the funds for the front office, the main office 1 year. And this year we won't see it in the actuals yet, but we've purchased new filing cabinets for human resources. And then last, these are our reporting fees. These are ACA fees that we're charged every year. So overall, and this is due to the employee assistance program, a decrease of 2.7%. Next is legal. Legal has been level funded. However, and this is just general ed legal, this doesn't include special education. You'll see we have in past years spent more than we budgeted for many reasons, union contracts, other cases. However, this is where, when we look to budget for the next year, we don't want to look at the prior year actuals and say, let's budget that. this is where we say, we're gonna take an acceptable risk. And during the year, if legal is going to exceed the budget and we don't have other funds to cover it, then that's when we would go to the school committee and look at a one-time use of fund balance, rather than trying to budget for something that may happen and having to reduce FTE or somewhere else. Legal, and included in legal is also the school committee attorney fees, which is that contractual amount. This is the school committee budget. So the only change I have in here is the professional liability insurance. The 27 budget is what the actual costs are now. You'll see in prior years, you don't see some of the actuals. Our broker had to lump this into the total liability. And we purchase our insurance with the town. So when it was allocated, it did not go to the school committee line. But I want to make sure going forward that that's where it goes and it's separated, so we can track that. So that, you know, it is an increase from the 11,000, but the 15,217 is the actual rate that we are at right now. And I will reduce the insurance line in facilities by this amount, since I've added it here. Is there anything as a school committee you were looking for or seeing to change in the budget, or?
What are the professional organization fees to who? Do you know who that?
Rhode Island Association of School Committees.
I just got it here.
Yeah, if you look at the site budget detail. Spell that out.
We do a lot of lobbying too, so.
And that was the remainder of the site budgets. Also included at the end of the packet, Rose printed the reports I had sent around professional development. So there was a detail by location, and then a summary by funding source for prior years.
Thank you.
I didn't know if anyone had any questions on that. I did want to point out one thing that definitely stands out. Some of the other grants as well, that if you look back in the prior 3 years, the amount of grant funding we've been able to use for professional development, you know, from our CLSD grant, Title II, and then in 2024, $219,000 of SR2 money.
So like on this, oh, I'm sorry, never mind, I'll wait. I have more of a general question.
Yes, I'm trying to think of it because I can't do it
I have a packet with all of them. I'm gonna go through where we are, but then to talk through, I would go through all the changes. I've got Peter's. Now I'm passing out the summary reports. Yours have the 3-hole punch.
Yeah. Thank you. Sorry, I was a school teacher. My lesson plans too.
Thank you.
I appreciate this being done too.
So you have 3 reports in front of you. You have an overall proposed revenue and expenditure summary, which is a balanced budget. We'd be looking for approval on this evening to go to the town. The second report is a summary of changes, and that's the report I'd like to walk through to show you how we get to those summary figures. And the third report, because it's relevant for this conversation, is our fund balance summary as of June 30, 2025. So if you look at the summary of changes report, it's the one that's 3 pages, that's stapled. This is the summary of expenditure changes from the fiscal year 2026 adopted budget. So we start with our adopted budget in 26 of 60.5 million. Then I do a summary of our wage and benefit changes. You'll see that the overall wage increase is 402,000, and I show the various fringe benefit increases. You'll see the health insurance buyback line, which includes an estimated 9% increase to health rates, is an increase of 354,000. To note, if this, while it has happened before, it's not typical. If we were to have a 0% increase, we would have a decrease of over 200,000 instead of a $300,000 increase. So just
Based on the position eliminations that we've already hit.
right. So then I go down to, here are our staffing changes. I go through the FTE reductions and then the additions. All of these reductions and additions are shown in the summary FTE schedules and all the individual schedules. So I'll just run through them. HR generalist, we went from a 1.0 to a 0.75. Reduced an HR coordinator, however, in additions, we added a director of human resources. High school reduced a student success coach. We reduced 5 vacant bus monitor positions for 88,000, but you'll see we added 2 special ed bus aides for 88,000. So that was the wash there for transportation. Reducing by a 0.5 kindergarten paraprofessional. You'll see also a kindergarten teacher. We had 3 kindergarten teachers budgeted for State Street this year. We have 2 kindergarten classes. Building aid, sorry, that's an error. That should be, building aid, that should be a 0. That's just an adjustment in FTE. I'll just won't change our overall number. We have a social studies teacher. We're reducing 0.4, so going from a 1.0 to a 0.6. Reducing a special education teacher, I mentioned a kindergarten teacher. Reducing 2 grade 2 teachers, 1 grade 3, and 2 grade 4. You'll note grade 1, there was a reduction of 1, but also an addition of 1. It was just a shift between schools. That's why that's not shown here. It's just by grade. Additions, part-time EV transportation coordinator at 0.25. Transportation requested a dispatcher. I mentioned the director of human resources, and the 2 special ed bus aides, and then the 0.6 criminal justice teacher. So those are all the FTE changes that we had. And the second page gives a listing of all the site budgets. And this shows the increase or decrease from the 26 adopted budget to the proposed 27 budget. So you'll see some of the more significant increases were obviously maintenance and facilities, and that's where commercial insurance and electricity are in those budgets. Out of district tuitions. And then as you get down, you'll see, technology sites and overall 75,000. For a total non-salary and fringe expense increase of 911,000. So that would bring our proposed expenditure increase to almost 1.6 million or a 2.63% increase. This was all site budgets presented as is, including all requested funding. So if you look on the third page, we do have some proposed changes to the 27, the initial request to the budget. And with these changes, if approved, that gets us to the summary page. I'll go through. So in technology, we're looking at server replacements, classroom projectors, and power supply battery replacements. Exactly as was brought up before, removing, these are one-time purchases that we could either use fund balance, or if we identify surplus in a current year, we would use that. Technology department wireless, there was a reduction from HR. And you'll see finance, the 1,500, that's the munis, reducing the 5% increase down to 3% now that we have the final number. Human resources, other services, they were looking for a request for digitization of records for 17,500. We've removed that. They requested an increase in their supplies of 3,000. We're removing 2,000. Then removing the 15,000 for vector software and using that alternate funding source. Transportation included electricity for EV bus charging, and we're removing that. Electricity is going to be charged to the facilities line. Mark McKenna and I continue to look at electricity and our costs because that was a significant increase, and it's been a significant expense for us. You'll see facilities where I removed the school committee professional liability that I added into that budget. Then I looked at the increase in commercial insurance in the budget, and I've reduced the estimated increase to 4%. So the overall increase in commercial insurance is approximately 55,000. So that's a reduction. The next two lines I have in here in regards to tuitions, there's no change overall, but as part of the committee approving the budget, I'd like to be able to do some reallocating between the placement lines. Special Ed has those. I did not have them in time for the report purposes, but it's just a matter of switching tuitions amongst providers. We are going to reduce the budget for out-of-district tuition for CTE by 2 for a total of 75 students. We do have budgeted 75 in that line this year. We won't know that number. We'll know a little bit more after, I think, February? So, but we think right now the 27 proposed budget is at 77. We think reducing to 75 will work for us. Staff development, we did have a line for Article 32 for $30,000 for staff development. Typically in the past, we hadn't budgeted this line. We really felt we needed to put a budget to it. However, looking at our increases, we said, let's reduce this by 20,000 and start with a budget of 10,000 for that PD. And then if there's savings somewhere throughout the year, we could look to that, look into other grant opportunities for PD. Transportation, repair, and maintenance. The increase requested was 21,000. We're reducing that by 10,000, knowing that while we do have the need for outside repairs, that need has been greater because we have a technician position vacant. So we experience savings in that position. So we're looking to reduce that by 10,000. High school CTE, removing the office furniture and career center furniture of 6,000. We looking for potentially another source, or in 27, perhaps that $7,000 in central office could be used for this. And then the high school CTE advertising, that's in central office, so removing that 2,500. So that gets us to reductions of $337,690. So then we looked at positions. The part-time EV position of 0.25 that we have, that's a temporary position. I'm looking to remove that from the budget, not necessarily remove the position, however, we'll have to review and determine how long we're going to need that part-time position. Also, there was a request for a part-time dispatcher. This is a new position, so we may still have discussions on that. This is not the time to put that in the budget. And then in speaking to the high school, there is a vacant 0.6 construction position in the budget this year. We still have a full-time construction position. So the high school said they do not need that 0.6 at this time. So our total proposed changes would be a decrease of $461,650. So with that, our proposed expenditure increase would be $1,132,393. That's a 1.87% budgetary increase. Now, if you go to our summary page, you'll see the total expenditures, the bottom right, you'll see the increase, the 1.132 increase, 1.87%, bringing us to a projected budget of $61,703,638. So that's the expenditure side. So now the balancing side, the revenue side. We know we have a reduction in state aid at this point based on the governor's recommended budget of $172,443. This figure I also update as the state goes through the budget process and puts out new numbers. We update this budget accordingly. So with the increase in expenditures and the decrease in state aid, noting no other changes in other revenue sources, typically we look to the local appropriation line. However, looking at that dollar amount, we thought at this point in time we would put in fund balance of $400,000 and request $904,836 from the town.
So we have, as we've gone through this, and especially in the last couple of weeks as we get closer to this, we've tried to think in terms of being in the ballpark of asking for a less than 2% increase and to keep any increase that we're requesting under $1 million. We recognize that we still have work to do now till July 1st. We also want to present to the town council what we believe is a budget request that is reasonable and responsible and reflects actual need. And so it was important for us to get under that $1 million ask. And while we typically would caution against using fund balance to balance a budget, the thinking is that with bringing $400,000 over, that gets us both beneath a 2% increase, gets us underneath $1 million, and hopefully might be seen as at least partial acquiescence to the hopes of at least one town councilor who wants to see us using the fund balance. We're trying to kind of split the baby here and be reasonable and use some of that fund balance to get us where, again, we felt we needed to be, under 2% request, under $1 million request, recognizing that there's still work to do. What the town council hopefully will come to understand, and that I'll remind you folks about, is what staffing is where the bulk of our money is. And we've identified the reductions that we think we can. if, for example, K enrollments start to spike, because they've been slow thus far, and we determined that we needed to open a third, this is just an example, third K at Springbrook, I would recommend, again, tapping into fund balance next summer, because you'll only be that person for 1 year likely, and then enrollment continues to come down. So we continue, you've heard me say for quite a while, we continue to try and reduce staffing in response to declining enrollment, and we would prefer above all else to see us get right-sized due to attrition, retirements and those kinds of things, but we're not in that position yet. One of the things that we really have to consider when we do layoffs or determine that we're gonna close a position is who all that impacts. I wanna say this delicately. Sometimes we have to be thoughtful about if we close a position in a particular department, who that person would be, as opposed to somebody with far more seniority. And so sometimes we do have to think strategically about protecting, some of our amazing hires in the last couple of years. And where we say, like in X department, we feel we can close the position, but this year is not the year to do it because we lose this particular person. So we have to be thoughtful about that as well. And that's the union rules, that's the matter of seniority, right? So we do anticipate it from what we hear, like, why didn't this person go this year? They're going next year. We hear that we're gonna have a number of expensive retirements next year. Expensive for us now, but they'll be to our benefit next year. So we're trying to get there and continue to right size. And we think that the use of some fund balance to get there would be appropriate this year. And I'm seeing head nodding, so it seems like that strategy kind of makes sense, at least superficially.
Okay. Absolutely. Two things. Number one, we got a great teacher's contract. That's over 3 years. So if they look at the salaries of the teachers, they reminded that the language, they were very pleased with it last year. That the language that we got was phenomenal. The second thing is I hear always the case at budget time when certain councils will say, let's go under what they got. Can't do it because of the maintenance method statute. So
That one, and it will come up from one council
Yeah.
annually, that they should go to the state and ask for a reduction. And it won't happen. It won't happen. The commissioner that would never approve it. It's just not gonna happen.
especially since what you've done in reductions over the last 4 or 5 years, so.
They don't come as quickly and as
Yeah.
in big numbers as people would like to see. Totally get that, but our net reduction is what, 11 positions for next year?
10 point something now.
10 point something.
Yeah.
So can I just ask a question, just reading the summary sheet? So are we asking for 1.132 or are we asking for 904?
If we took the strategy that I just described, you see
Yes.
up at the top,
Yes,
you'll see an increase of 400,000 per annum.
yep,
Oh, no, that's where it would come from. 400,000 coming over would get us to 904 and an increase of 1.7.
which is what we were asking the town council.
Yes.
Correct.
And then how, at the very bottom, where are the numbers? I'm not following how to read this. Why does it say 1.87 and?
Because
That includes the
that's the
400.
total ask of the town plus the 400,000 would be a
Right.
total
100,000
increase.
swipes off that, so.
The increase so we're at a balance, we need to be at a balanced budget, so the increase in overall revenues is 1.87% and overall expenditures is 1.87%.
Okay,
So with the decrease in state aid, if we were to not use fund balance, our request from the town would be higher than 1.87%.
okay. And then do the figures on the fund balance summary, so we would be taking it basically from the 764, which is the excess of 5%.
As of June 30, 2025, yes.
Do you have any other questions?
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Cindy, Do you know when the state aid is voted on, when the governor's budget is either approved or not approved approximately? Just, will that
We
be?
typically don't get the final state aid figure till sometimes towards the end of June.
Alright.
And there have been years when it's also been early July. There was one year, the first July meeting at the school committee, we were putting in the final state aid number.
I see. So that's not a figure that we can even really discuss.
They don't vote on the total budget until it gets close to June 30th, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we do, the fact that, you know, hopefully it will not be as much of a decrease, but due to the decrease in enrollment, it most likely will be.
Often in the summer, we get a little more than we had budgeted for, we planned for, but we go by the prelim numbers. I don't think we've seen a reduction in recent years during the summer. Usually the news is good in summer, and with it being an election year, hopefully it will continue to be a good year for those in the summer.
Can I ask one more question? Do you have an estimate, do you know what our estimated surplus would be for the 26 budget?
I am working on that now, so at the next school committee meeting, which is your first meeting in March, I will have a report.
But that is all, surplus is surplus until it goes into fund balance, right? So anything that's left over from this year would eventually end up in fund balance. So in the spring, or certainly once Cindy has that figured out, what the anticipated surplus for this year would be, that's another opportunity for us to go into our request for next year and make any of those purchases that we can using this year's money. And get that down. We don't want to go into July with a large surplus. So if we can use any anticipated surplus from this year to lower this, we'll certainly do that.
Or any more questions, you're Professor Straight.
I know, right? Well, yeah,
Thank you.
but, I mean, thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, this has been great, and I think a lot of what people asked for throughout the process, we got answers to, and, you know, this, I think, is a really good plan, so. Nobody has any other questions?
So we would need,
I would need a vote to proceed with this budget, then what I will do is I will take this back and then the complete budget book would go to the town for February.
All right, so I will seek a motion to approve our 2026-27 budget.
so moved.
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion?
I just want to say thank you for taking into account, pulling some things from the
Sure.
fund balance and getting it as lean as it is. I think it looks great. You guys did a great job on it.
I thank you. So for anybody who's watching again, the request that you're voting to move forward would be for an increase of $904,836, which represents an increase of 1.79%. And keep an eye on other surrounding communities, you see people in the 2.5s, 2.6, so we don't want to go there.
I saw some today, 4 point something in some districts
Wow.
in Connecticut.
All right, so we have a motion, we have a second, no further discussion. All members in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, that passes. Thank you all again.
And just one more thing, well, it doesn't change the totals, I do have a correction to make on this sheet. And once I do that, I will upload all three of these reports to the school committee's budget folder, so you have it.
Thank you. All right, take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All members in favor?
Aye.
Aye.